person who owns,
No.
they lease it, right?
Look at the plan that was submitted. That's how it's been. So like, there's a
Right, yeah, that's right in the front there, that's, I get that.
and there's an auto body.
All
They're
right.
two separate entities.
Yeah.
All right,
So
the
we're just
garage,
trying to get the
who,
license.
does somebody own the garage out itself, by itself?
Bill Smith owns it.
So he's leasing it to this guy?
There's two leases there. at the
Okay,
property.
all right.
Yeah, so if we have to amend the license, we'll amend the license, but it hasn't been that way
Right,
for 50 years. If we have to do it, we will, but right now, it's just for the used car portion of.
okay.
You could simply add a condition that as soon as the garage is available, it becomes a part of the license.
I would be amenable to that. I'd rather not have Mr. Occasion and his client come back here again, if that's
You
the
don't like
case.
seeing me?
Brian, I miss you on this board, you know that. Commissioner Donahoe.
I feel somewhat not wanted now. During the occasion, I was over there yesterday.
Yep.
Right now, that place is overburdened with cars. They're all over the street. It's a mess, and I'm surprised the neighbors aren't yelling about it.
Right.
But you're telling me he has a history there. And if we're gonna limit it to 15 cars and parking for a customer and employee, it'll be on that side
Right.
out front that we understand now, with the condition that he will take over the garage as soon as it becomes vacant.
Yes.
I think it might be a hard sell to get that guy out of there, because, boy, they're working.
Yeah, he's got a lot of stuff. That's why
It's,
his notice to quit expires on September 1st. So
Yeah.
if he's not out, then we're going to have to use judicial remedies to get him out. But that's Mr. Smith owns a lot of property in
Yeah.
Lowell. He doesn't want to be a nuisance, and he knows that the place is
yeah.
getting a little.
I assume that at least the front will be cleared by whoever owns it
Yes.
September 1st, so he can get in there and
Exactly.
do his business.
And just to be honest with you, that's one of the reasons why he gave up the license the first time he had it, is because the garage was.
Somebody
I
else,
couldn't operate the business with them operating the way they do.
yeah.
Right.
So it's two different business ideas from
Okay.
their side and my side.
Okay.
Commissioner Howe?
I didn't have a chance to go out and see it, but I did look at it on Google Maps, and it does look like there are a ton of cars in this small space. So you're telling me there are 17 spaces? And you want 20, you want to sell 20 cars? Is that what your client said?
He said he'd like 20, but
Yeah,
What-
if it's available, it could be fine, but if it's not, I can do like the 15.
And where are the customers going to park?
there are two spots right in front.
And that's included in the 17?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On your application, you have that there's a cement block building consisting of an office area of 80 square feet. So that's separate from the garage, correct?
It's, the 80 square feet is in, there's like a joint office, and the 80 square feet is in there. On this plan that I submitted, you'll see that it's designated as the 80 square feet.
All right, so your client has access to that now?
Once he has the license, he has access, yes.
Right.
Right.
That has nothing to do with the eviction that's going on?
No,
All right, and the eviction should be quick because it's commercial, right?
I would hope so. Yeah. Yes.
I have no other questions.
Just make sure you don't put Attorney Murphy on that case, that's all. All right.
He'll make it into a.
Commissioner Chan?
I mean, but first, I think that there should be 15 at the most. That's my opinion.
Okay.
I stopped by the place today. Yes, I agree with Commissioner Donahoe. Need a lot of cleanup.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 20 car, if you intend to clean the place up and make the neighborhood happy,
Yep.
I don't see 20 car would, I would incline to support 17
Okay.
instead of 20.
You want to go right in the middle, Joe, or?
I was gonna say, I'll go with 15 spaces plus an employee and a customer spot, for a total of 17 parking spaces on the license at this time. And I would also make it I would also make a contingency that if he is able to acquire, and when he's able to acquire the garage, it be included in the license, for the repairs.
And if you notice on the lease, the description of the premises under the lease that I submitted includes the garage, because that's the intention.
Right.
Got it. All right. Motion on the floor by Commissioner Donahoe. We're looking at 17 spaces. And once,
15 car spaces.
15 cars with the 2 extra spaces. Once you've got everything cleared away and you think you can get more spaces in there, come back and see us and we'll take a look at it. If you need 2 or 3 more, then we'll take a look at it. But we want to be nice to the neighbors. We want to make sure it's looking good over there. And right now it isn't. So we'll do the 15 with the 2 and we'll go forward from that. All right. Motion on the floor by Commissioner Donohue, seconded by Commissioner Howe. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, the motion carries. Counselor, good seeing you.
Have a great rest of the summer.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks.
Our last agenda item is not here. Application by Pino Amato, owner of the Coffee Mill Emporium Incorporated, for a common vittler license without alcoholic beverage service for premises at 23 Palmer Street.
She on Zoom at all?
She's not here.
Nope, not at all. Okay.
Not at all.
I like your comment, Mr.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned by Commissioner Howe, seconded by Commissioner Chan. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, have a good evening. Yeah, actually, I was in the coffee shop yesterday. She goes, yeah, I'm going to be on Zoom. I said, okay.
Didn't she miss the last meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
So be it.
Next meeting. It's a great thing about summer. It's been a long time since we've met. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Any comments, discussion, edits? All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, that passes. Our next order of business is a request from Acre Crossing to amend the decision from last year. Acre Crossing has submitted a letter asking for a modification for the way funds are distributed. Mass Housing has recommended that the CPA award be amended to allow the funds to flow directly to the project to bring down purchase prices instead of to the buyer as down payment assistance. Oh, well, yeah, we can, do you want to do a roll call? Attendance?
Chairman Bakey,
Here?
Vice Chair McCall,
Here.
Member Butenhuis,
Present.
Member Shea,
Present.
Member Lang.
Present.
Once everybody else supposed to be here,
I think we have to call the others, but.
Oh, the others too. Oh, sorry. I don't have the list. Member Sigliano, Member Gallivan, and Member DePeza.
And Rourke. And Member Rourke is also absent. Member Rourke is also absent.
Member Rourke.
Yeah, I apologize for that. We did a lot of quorum checks before the meeting, so here we are. Anyway, thank you. and-
I'm sorry to interrupt, Adam.
Yep.
I just want to let you know, it's hard for people on the Zoom to hear Serena because she doesn't have a microphone. So just as the meeting progresses, you may need to repeat stuff.
Okay, yeah, I think you just need to turn your microphone on when you speak, sir.
Well, I thought it was on. Maybe
Oh.
try a different one.
All right, we have an extra, so. Okay. Acre Crossing. Believe you're here to speak on that?
This is working?
Francie's on Zoom.
You okay? Is it working?
I can hear you. That may be just going to the TV, but
Oh, okay. Steve Jonkus, representing Acre Crossing LLC, 155 Merrimack Street, Lowell. Thank you for the opportunity to present our request for an amendment to the previous CPA requirements. We're very excited about the status of our project. As you note, if you've driven past there lately, site work has commenced. Construction financing is in place for the office component as well as the garage. And Will Susi, the developer, has also secured financing, construction financing for the residential component, the 32 units, 2 and 3 bedroom units for first-time home buyers at between 80 and 100% of area median income. The reason that despite the high interest rates and unpredictable construction costs, the key to our success on making these units available to first-time buyers at these affordable prices is the support from Mass Housing Finance Agency. And Mass Housing is the administrator of the Commonwealth Builder Program, whereby they can provide up to $250,000 to help write down the cost of a unit. In our discussions with them over the past 3 months, we've been getting lots of support from them, actually received a term sheet, which is, as you know, the first step to obtaining a commitment letter. But the most recent requirement on their part is that we price the units so that the buyers are using only 30% of their income to pay for principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and homeowner association fees. Most people these days are borrowing at 35 or more percent of their interest, of their income, in order to just pay principal and interest. So that presents a challenge for us. And one of the things that Mass Housing has told us is that the CPA funds that were awarded for down payment assistance to buyers cannot be counted toward the affordability of that unit at 30%. They want us to have the funds transferred to the project directly, not unlike you did for the CBA, or there was one other project where there was a capital grant made to a developer for property on Gorham Street. So that's the reason for our request. We're looking to have that fund transferred, our authority transferred, to use it so that it directly goes to the project itself, not to the home buyer, and that way we can use that funding to reduce the purchase price to achieve that 30% affordability requirement. Our hope is that we can get through this process fairly quickly. As you know, again, the site preparation work has been done. There's been excavation done on the site. The buildings have been removed that were there. Will is very anxious to get underway. Time is money in the construction business. So we're hopeful that we can, one, garner your support for this change, and two, if you do choose to support it, that we can expedite the process in getting final approvals. It's the one remaining item that we need to take care of in order to get a full final commitment letter from Mass Housing.
Thank you. We have questions from the members.
Hi, this is Christine. I don't have any questions. I just wanted to reiterate that affordable home ownership is a priority of the city. And so while this recommendation is actually coming from Mass Housing and not from the applicant, speaking on behalf of the DPD, I'm very supportive of this request. And I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from members?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to indicate for the record that I appreciate your remarks, Mr. Junkus' remarks, and it makes complete sense to me that we can be an asset to help you move forward with your development. And I noticed the development is moving along. I saw it this afternoon, and you're to be commended. So I'll be voting yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate those comments.
Is this change affects the buyer at all, or this is just a flow of money changes and nothing else is affecting it?
It does not affect the buyer, except that the buyer will have a purchase price that is less than it would have been otherwise. So the way it was originally set up, if the buyer qualified for down payment assistance, their mortgage would have been affected by the down payment assistance. In this case, their mortgage will be less because the money is going directly to reducing the purchase price. So they benefit from it still, It's just a different way for the money to flow through.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion? I think we,
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the proposed amendment on acre crossing.
I'll second it.
okay. I think we need to just modify that as our recommendation to the city council.
Thank you.
Would be. Any questions on the motion? We need a roll call, please.
Chairman Bakey,
Yes?
Vice Chair McCall,
Yes.
Member Butenhuis,
Yes.
Member Shea,
Yes.
Member Liang.
Yes.
Thank you.
You all
Motion
very
passes.
much. You know, your support is, and the city's support has been really critical to the success of this project. And we're again excited to get underway, and this is an important step in that regard. So thank you again.
We're really looking forward to this rising out of the ground, so thank you for what you're doing as well. All right, our next item this evening is an eligibility application. So all the remaining items on our agenda this evening are requests for determination as to whether the proposed project is eligible for this program. So the committee tonight will not be evaluating the merits of the application or funding levels relative to other applications or anything like that. This is the first step in a two-step process. And the first step is basically our guidance back to you that indeed your project is eligible, or you need to think about modifying the following things in order for it to be eligible to apply for these funds. So we have several of those this evening, which is exciting to see. The first one on the agenda is for Donahoe Park. An application has been submitted by the City of Lowell for $802,500 of CPA funding for the rehabilitation of outdoor recreation space. The applicant proposes to utilize the funds at Donahoe Park, located at 2 Stratham Street. The funds will be used to help restore the park and make it ADA accessible. The applicant is currently seeking an eligibility determination from the Community Preservation Committee. Do we have someone to speak on behalf of this application?
Hi, my name is Jess Wilson. I'm a design planner for the City of Lowell. Is the audio working okay?
It is.
Okay, great. So this proposal is for capital improvements to Donahoe Park at 2 Stratham Street. It's a 13.04 acre public city park and the grounds of the Pine Arts Elementary School in South Lowell. Donahoe Park features a baseball field, a basketball court, a small playground, benches, and picnic tables. The playground is in need of an upgrade, and the baseball field would benefit from irrigation. All of the benches, picnic tables, and trash receptacles in the park need to be replaced, and this proposal would address several goals from the city's 2019 to 2026 open space and recreation plan, which include goal number 4, action 18, to install more picnic tables at select park locations, to provide more picnic locations at parks across the city. Goal number 5, action number 5, to install maps at parks that show the locations of other parks and green spaces in the area and routes to follow to get there. Goal number 5, action number 6, to translate important signage and information about open space and recreational opportunities into other languages. And finally, goal number 6, action number 28, to renovate the playground and ball field at Donahoe Park. So Donahoe Park is adjacent to Lowell Cemetery and Shed Park, which connects to Fort Hill Park. Collectively, these 4 parks comprise one of the largest open space assets in the city. Donahoe Park is separated by wooded areas and serves as a quiet neighborhood park. The renovation and enhancements of Donahoe Park will ensure that this important open space amenity can continue to be enjoyed by the community for years to come. The proposed renovations would include installing a new accessible playground with poured-in-place rubber surfacing to replace the existing playground with equipment with mulch surface, irrigation of the baseball field, the replacement and addition of new accessible benches, picnic tables, and trash receptacles, a slight extension of the sidewalk, and new tree plantings to increase accessibility to the park. The installation of a rain garden to help address stormwater management issues at the corner of the parking lot, and the installation of multilingual signage, including an alternative and augmentative communication board, which helps aid in nonverbal communication. The estimated scope of work and cost came out to $802,500, and when we were putting together our funding plan for the year for open space and recreation projects. There are a number of grant sources that we typically apply to. As CPA is a new source that's, sorry. It's not, these two sites were selected for CPA funding because they are not eligible for some of the other funding sources that we typically pursue for open space projects due to their locations. So we thought that CPA funding would be a good match. I'm currently involved with the implementation of the CPA funds that were awarded to the Roberto Clemente Park Committee last year for the renovation of Clemente Park. And so we hope to do similar capital improvement projects at Donahoe Park as well. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have questions from the members? Hearing no others, I don't have any significant questions other than just want to alert you and some of the other applicants that the total amount of funding that the committee has available to it this year to distribute is only about $1 million. So as we think about the scale of this request and some of the other ones, as you prepare your actual applications, do give some genuine thought to what are the priorities that you might want to be seeking funding for, as opposed to not necessarily everything you're asking for right now. Consider whether projects can be funded over multiple years, or in the case of the municipal projects, there may be some thinking about whether borrowing makes sense for some of these projects or not. So, but I guess I would like to call for a motion about the eligibility of this particular proposal from the committee.
Motion to find eligible.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? All right. I guess roll call, please.
Chairman Bakey,
Yes?
Vice Chair McCall. It's that microphone, that's why. It's that thing in front of you. That's what's.
Oh, is that what you?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Vice Chair McCall.
move on to the next person.
Okay. Member Butenhuis.
Yes.
Member Shea.
Yes.
Member Liang.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So that is found to be eligible. Our next proposal this evening is an eligibility application for the Hadley House. An application has been submitted by the Lowell Housing Authority for $150,000 of CPA funding for the rehabilitation of community housing. The applicant proposes to utilize the funds at the Hadley House located at 719 Broadway Street. The funds will be used to help rehabilitate a site that will be used for veterans housing. The applicant is currently seeking an eligibility determination from the Community Preservation Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'm Gary Wallace from the Lowell Housing Authority, and I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of our application and hoping that you'll find it eligible. As you noted, the project aims to both create housing and to preserve the historic Hadley House. It's a federal-style home that was built in 1822, and to our knowledge is one of the few, if not only, homes of this style in the city. Recent legislation had passed that will give the LHA total site control and requires in that legislation that we develop the property specifically for affordable veterans housing. We anticipate being able to create up to 5 units of housing for the veterans with services. This request from the CPA will be used to help in design and engineering costs, and we hope that you'll look favorable upon our application.
Thank you. We have comments or questions from the members?
Mr. Chairman, excuse me, just for the record, I want to indicate that being a member of the Board of Commissioners at the Lowell Housing Authority, I will be abstaining from voting, or I'll be voting present.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a relatively minor technicality, but the particular categories that you checked on the application would render this project ineligible.
Okay.
However, had you checked some other boxes, which the project clearly qualifies for, it probably would be eligible. So we are not allowed to use community preservation funds to rehabilitate affordable housing, unless it was originally purchased using CPA funds. We are allowed to use CPA funds for historic preservation, rehabilitation, which this project sounds like it might be. We are also allowed to use CPA funds to create affordable housing, which actually I think in this case, given that the building is not currently affordable housing, is probably a more correct description of the proposal as well.
Right.
And that would also, I think, be eligible. So when you're preparing your application, again, assuming the rest of the committee agrees, pay a little careful attention to which boxes get checked.
Thank you.
So do we have a motion from the committee?
To find this project eligible under certain other
Well-
requirements. I mean, I'll make that motion.
Okay.
So which bucket are you gonna check? Sam?
We'll find it eligible under some categories.
Either as a creation of affordable
Sure.
housing or possibly historic preservation.
Sounds like the creation of community housing
That's probably
would
the
be your safest
best
bet.
category.
We would find it eligible under that category. I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Yeah, second.
Okay. Can we have a roll call, please?
Chairman Bakey,
Yes?
Vice Chair McCall,
Yes.
Member Butenhuis,
Yes.
Member Shea,
Present.
Member Liang.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We look forward to your application.
Yes.
Our next application is for O'Donnell Park. An application has been submitted by the city of Lowell for $1,668,750 of CPA funding for the rehabilitation of recreation space. The applicant proposes to utilize the funds at O'Donnell Park, located at 1170 Gorham Street. The funds will be used for capital improvements at the park. The applicant is currently seeking an eligibility determination from the Community Preservation Committee. Do we have someone to speak on this one?
Yes, hi. Again, my name is Jess Wilson. I'm the design planner for the city of Lowell. This proposal is for capital improvements to O'Donnell Park at 1170 Gorham Street, which is a 15.29 acre public city park in the grounds of the Shaughnessy Elementary School and the Butler Middle School in Lowell's Sacred Heart neighborhood. O'Donnell Park features a splash pad, 3 basketball courts, 3 tennis courts, a baseball field, and a playground primarily used by the Shaughnessy Elementary School students. DPD staff met with the Shaughnessy School principal in the spring of 2022 to discuss their needs for an improved playground that is safer and more inclusive. The basketball courts, tennis courts, and baseball field are also in various states of disrepair. This proposal addresses several goals from the city's 2019 to 2026 Open Space and Recreation Plan, including many of the same goals that I read off before for Donahoe Park, as well as goal number 6, action number 38, to restripe select tennis courts to include the markings for pickleball and purchase appropriate nets, and goal number 6, action number 33, renovate tennis courts and ball field at O'Donnell Park. O'Donnell Park is the largest park in the Sacred Heart neighborhood and is centrally located, which makes it a vital asset to the community. The renovation and enhancement of O'Donnell Park will ensure that this important community amenity can continue to be enjoyed by the community for years to come. So the proposed improvements include resurfacing the basketball courts and replacing equipment, as well as resurfacing the tennis courts and converting 2 of the courts to be pickleball and handball, installing a new accessible playground with poured-in-place rubber surfacing, irrigating the baseball field and replacing the bleachers, installing a new outdoor classroom, and installing a painted path and signage to help with wayfinding, visual identity, and cohesion of the park overall. The estimated scope of work and budget for this project came out to $1,668,750. As you noted previously, there is only $1 million total funding this year for CPA funds. For Clemente Park, we ended up applying for and are still waiting confirmation of funding for CDBG funding. These 2 projects that I've presented tonight will not be eligible for that source, but we can certainly look into other grants and funding sources that could be an appropriate match should you choose to fund portions of these projects. Thank you. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Do we have questions or comments from members? Hearing none, do we have a motion on this one?
I'll make a motion to accept, approve the eligibility.
Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Roll call, please.
Chairman Bakey,
Yes?
Vice Chair McCall,
Yes.
Member Butenhuis,
Yes.
Member Shea,
Yes.
Member Liang.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next one is an eligibility application for Women in Transition Incorporated. An application has been submitted by Women in Transition Incorporated, doing business as Alternative House, for $300,000 of CPA funding for the rehabilitation and restoration of housing for domestic abuse survivors. The applicant proposes to utilize the funds at an undisclosed location. The funds will be used to replace the roof, carpet, windows, and window trim, repair the front porch and overhang, and repaint internal areas damaged by leaks. The applicant is currently seeking an eligibility determination from the Community Preservation Committee. Do we have anybody here to speak on this one?
Yes. Hi, good evening. Maria Crooker-Capone, the Executive Director of Alternative House. Thank you all for allowing us the opportunity to speak tonight. We are requesting funding to support the rehabilitation of our 2-year transitional housing program. We do ask to keep the location confidential just due to the nature of the work that we provide, the services that we provide to survivors of domestic violence. We do own a home that is on the National and State Register of Historical Places, and it was built in 1893. It's a 14,537 square foot home. We purchased the home and renovated it completely in 1999. We have begun to have conversations with the architect who did that with us in 1999 from Gavin and Sullivan to create a plan to rehab what we need to. The home is in need of a lot of repair on the outside, the windows and the trim. The trim is rotting around the windows. We really like to preserve the historical nature of the building. The front porch and the overhang is in need of serious work, and because of those items and the roof, which we actually, in our original application stated we had set aside funds to replace, we just replaced, so that should help prevent any further leaks, but now there is damage because of the leaks. It is not inhabitable, it just needs some repair. And we've estimated the cost to be about $300,000 to make these repairs, and currently this house provides 8 units of affordable housing to low to very low income survivors of domestic violence and their children.
Thank you. I would just like to clarify one item for the record on this one. Obviously, it's difficult for the committee to officially make a determination about eligibility without knowing the location, because that's key to determining whether it indeed is a significant historic structure, which is one of the threshold requirements we have for making such a determination. Recognizing the particular nature of this case, where there is a very legitimate reason for maintaining that confidentiality, we have proposed a solution whereby the Historic Board Administrator will vouch for the location and its eligibility for or actually its listing on the National and State Registers of Historic Places. And so I would recommend that the committee, if it makes a finding of eligibility, make it conditional on the Historic Board Administrator supporting or confirming that historic status. That will enable the location to remain confidential. Do we have any questions from the members? No. Hearing none, do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I will move approval of the eligibility application for women's in transition.
Okay. Subject to?
Subject to support of the City Council.
Well, and the historic board finding the location eligible?
Oh, yes. I did notice thank you for bringing that out about the location, and I'm glad you, for the record, indicated the confidentiality, which to me makes a lot of sense. And this is a very worthwhile project, and I hope it can move forward to a vote someday to fund something like this.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Okay. Roll call, please.
Chairman Bakey,
Yes?
Vice Chair McCall.
Yes.
Okay. Member Butenhuis,
Yes.
Member Shea,
Yes.
Member Liang.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, our next application is for 44 Princeton Boulevard. An application has been submitted by St. George Parish Council for $500,000 of CPA funding for historic preservation. The applicant proposes to utilize the funds at the St. George Orthodox Church located at 44 Princeton Boulevard. The funds will be used to repair damage to the dome and other damage to the church. The applicant is currently seeking an eligibility determination from the Community Preservation Committee.
Thank you. I'm Father Constantine Cambus, the pastor of the St. George Greek Orthodox Church on 44 Princeton Boulevard. Our church has been, we've been using this church for 49 years. The church actually is 126 years old. It was built in 1895, 1896 by a well-known architect, William Chester Chase, and it's registered in the National Registry of Historic Places in 2011 by Secretary William Francis Galvin of the, it's on the National Registry Board. We have a 79-foot dome, and we also have a George Stevens, original George Stevens pipe organ, circa 1836 in our church. Why we're asking for the funding is there has been a series of storms in late winter 2017, 18, and I believe also in 19. I wasn't there at that time, but I understand a lightning strike also caused roof damage, which resulted in several leaks in our church. Although we had an insurance funding, settlement, it was insufficient to cover the amount of damage, and we are seeking funding to do this. We're a community, a small community, but a historic community in that our community has inhabited that church for 49 years, but it's been around since 1928 in other areas. In fact, the original church was right across the street and on Worthen Street. The church is used on Sundays for worship still to this day, and it's also used several times a year by the students of the UMass, University of Massachusetts history department to come and look at the paintings and the religious architecture and religious artwork there. So we're seeking funding for that to help us to repair whatever damages would need to be repaired to prevent the leaking and further deterioration of the walls and ceiling. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have questions or comments from the members? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move to accept the recommendation of the committee that we move forward with this application at 44 Princeton Boulevard.
Do we have a second? Is that a second? I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you. Any discussion on the motion? No? Roll call, please.
Chairman Bakey,
Yes?
Vice Chair McCall.
Vice Chair
Yes.
McCall?
Member Butenhuis,
Yes.
Member Shea,
Yes.
Member Liang.
Yes.
Thank you. We look forward to your application. Next one is an eligibility application for 635 Middlesex Street. An application has been submitted by RG Realty LLC for $500,000 of CPA funding for the preservation and restoration of a historic property. The applicant proposes to utilize the funds at 635 Middlesex Street, a mixed-use building that will have 2 apartments and 1 commercial space. The funds will be used to renovate the historic building. The applicant is currently seeking an eligibility determination from the Community Preservation Committee.
Hi, my name is Rich Hupper from RG Realty. Thank you for having me here tonight. I do have a little handout if you're interested in reviewing it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the James Boyle building was built in the early 1900s, and it is part of the historic, I believe it's the Middlesex Historic District. So it's not listed individually on the National Register as a historic building, but it is part of one of the districts in Lowell. So over the years, it's changed hand, a couple different owners, and the last owner had it since the 70s, and they ran a small dry cleaning business out of it, and they also lived there in one of the units. So it's mixed use. It's 1 commercial space and 2 residential above, 3-story building with a basement. But that owner died, and the roof gave way, and significant water damage permeated all floors and just destroyed everything. So as it currently stands now, it looks like the project is going to, the total cost of the project is going to far exceed the final value of the finished project. So that's why I'm here tonight to see if there's any CPA funding available. I wasn't aware that there's only $1 million available. I wouldn't have asked for half of that, but you know, whatever helps. It is historic, so it would be nice if the committee would fund maybe some of the exterior components like the masonry and maybe the driveway in the back. But I'm not exactly sure, you know, what this committee will actually, what items are eligible for funding and what aren't. So I still need to learn about that a little bit more. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We have all of our ducks in a row. We have our architect. We have a historic consultant we're working with, and a general contractor lined up. And we're basically just looking to bring this building back to life. It's done a good job standing up for over 100 years on its own, but needs a little help on the inside.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
To partially address your question about what types of things might be most eligible, I think the aspects of the work that are visible to the public, so that would generally be the exterior of the building that are restoring historic fabric. So some of the properties, the one we just heard about, is a somewhat of a public building, so even the interior aspects of that are open to the public. When you're talking about what would essentially be residential units, we would not generally be focused on the interior of the building as much. And we definitely would need to ensure that the work being done is consistent with the Secretary of the Interior standards for historic preservation to be eligible for this. But it's definitely a possibility. The other thing that I would encourage you to think about and look at is last year, when this committee was launching the program and consequently had a few years' worth of money to distribute, so there was more, we deliberately seeded a program for at the Lowell Development Financial Corporation to assist with it's loan funds, but loan funds to assist developers with redeveloping historic buildings or renovating historic buildings. You may want to pursue that as another, even in addition to, if we find this eligible, at the same time as a source of funding for you.
Sorry, what was that?
The Lowell Development and Financial Corporation.
Okay.
has a program that, again, this committee helped fund, and as did a number of the local lenders, to basically provide money at attractive terms for investment in historic buildings in and around downtown Lowell. So I strongly encourage you to reach out to them in addition to continuing to reach out to us.
Absolutely, thank you.
So do we have comments or questions from the members?
But also note that ineligible items are also landscaping and asphalt and MEP systems. So it's really your building shell. Yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect because, I mean, the building exterior is actually in pretty good shape, but there are some, you know, like the windows and some of the masonry was changed on the exterior over the years. So some of it is deteriorating a little bit, but it is actually in pretty good shape. So, would windows qualify?
You would, again, consistent with the Secretary of the Interior standards, so the first, what they would say generally, in very general terms, without knowing the specifics of your case, would be to first focus on restoration rather than replacement, but if you do have to replace, it would be replacing in kind with what would have been historic. So I don't know what's there now, whether they've been replaced at some point in the past with something that isn't appropriate, but you would be trying to match whatever would have been historic.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
I just have a quick.
Yep.
Could I just ask you a question, please?
Sorry to make you keep bouncing up and down.
Okay, thank you. First of all, we can have this dialogue in the future when we get into the building itself, but just looking at the pictures, this is the building right next to the Boys Club?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
And it's directly across.
Right, that's what I
Eagle
thought.
Court.
And, okay, and secondly, I was just curious for, have you done any other development in Lowell?
In Lowell?
Yeah.
No historic buildings.
Because you certainly look like you know what you're doing with looking at your expenses. And,
Yeah, no, not the historic buildings.
I was just wondering, that was all, because I just saw your handout, and it's pretty impressive. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Sorry. Any other questions? All right, do we have a motion?
So, given that the request for funding is corrected to, qualified items, then this project I would consider to be appropriate. So I would, upon correction in the final application, say that we can accept it.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Roll call, please.
Chairman Bakey,
Yes.
Vice Chair McCall,
Yes.
Member Butenhuis,
Yes.
Member Shea,
Yes.
Member Liang.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, and our final eligibility application for this evening, thank you for your patience, is 75 Grand Street. Got a Highlands night tonight, I think. An application has been submitted by the Reverend Janine Daly, LLC, for $91,000 of CPA funding for the rehabilitation of a historic church. The applicant proposes to utilize the funds at the Bethel African Methodist Episcopal Church located at 75 Grand Street. The funds will be used to replace the roof and siding. The applicant is currently seeking an eligibility determination from the Community Preservation Committee.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing me to come and to share with you. I do wanted to make note that the application actually is being submitted by Bethel AME Church. And I am here as I am the pastor of the church. And so just wanted to make that clarification. I'm not a LLC, but I'm the appointed pastor.
Thank you. I apologize for our typo in our agenda.
That's okay. That's okay. And I am, as the pastor, we are requesting funds to support the restoration of the church. It was built in 1888, originally as a simple Gothic revival church. It was the Advent church at that time, and shortly after, it was purchased by the African Methodist Episcopal Church. and we are 104 years old. And so we are looking for funds to help with the exterior of the building, the siding, as well as replacing of the roof. They are both in dire need of replacement, and to the point where if they are not replaced, there will be some structural damage to the church. We are a small community of believers, but in addition to the worship experiences on Sunday, we provide services to the community. We have a post-traumatic healing program, which is open to all people in the community. We also provide a recovery support group for individuals in the Lowell and surrounding community. And we have a community garden in the back of the church where we help provide fruits and vegetables to individuals in the area, and we also give out food. And so we are hoping that this would meet the criteria for support. And although based on the comments, it is not it's not registered as a historic site, the structure has a Massachusetts Historical Commission inventory form completed for it. And so that helps in terms of, I believe, around eligibility. Thanks.
Thank you. Do we have questions from the members? You began to answer the question that I had, which was it does appear that it did have a survey form completed, that you very helpfully attached, and you've also indicated that you have had some interaction with the Historic Board Administrator about the project.
Yes.
We don't have any documentation or anything from him indicating his opinion about whether this property is eligible or not, do we?
Historic Board comments state that the structure does have the MHC inventory form completed for it, and in practice, MHC traditionally has considered structures like this one eligible for listing if an inventory form exists for it.
Okay. Then do we have a motion from the committee?
Okay, so I move to accept the eligibility of this project.
Okay. Second? All right. So roll call, please.
Chairman Bakey,
Yes.
Vice Chair McCall, Vice Chair McCall,
It's her last vote. Leaving early. Guess move on.
Yeah, we got enough.
all right. Member Butenhuis,
Yes.
Member Shea,
Yes.
Member Liang,
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Definitely encourage, and everyone who's looking, we still have a number of people here, everyone who is looking at a historic preservation application, I strongly encourage you to continue discussions with the Historic Board Administrator around the scope, which will help considerably in making sure that the actual scope you ultimately submit is eligible and will result in a positive historic preservation project. So, thank you all. Do we have any other business this evening? Then do we have a motion to adjourn?
Can make that motion?
And do we have a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all, and thank you, Member McCall, for your service.
Thank you very much. I'm going to miss working with you all very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.